Just give it another 30 seconds before just opening up today's Lunch and Learn. Okay. Bienvenue à tous. Bon après-midi. Unusaku tungasuvit. So nice to see everyone, and I know other members will trickle in as we start this Lunch and Learn. Phase 2. We met with Dr. Charles Lagacé. We're so lucky to have Charles in our community as a chiro. He's definitely helped us out here at the Law Society to be more knowledgeable of what we can do to be healthy, thinking about our wellness, not only in the workplace, which is important, but also just in our daily lives. And I'm glad that Charles can join us today again for phase 2 of this Lunch and Learn. I also welcome you to have a look at the national study on the wellness of the legal profession. The links are on the website for today's event and the event that took place back in January. And of course, always happy to share the recordings both on our Law Society CLE page and on our YouTube channel. So I'll turn it over to Charles. Merci encore, Charles. C'est vraiment un plaisir de t'accueillir aujourd'hui. And we have some polling again today. I'm just going to shut my screen just in case there's streaming issues from my end, but I'm just in the background. If anything comes up, I'll be listening carefully again. Over to you, Charles.
Thank you, Nalini. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this part 2 of the wellness prevention of musculoskeletal disorders at work. We'll talk today about ergonomics. So again, my name is Charles. Oh, let me turn my, oh no, I'm okay. My name is Charles Lagacé. I'm the chiropractor in Iqaluit. I've been living here for over 10 years now. I also have a master's degree in sports sciences with a concentration in neuromechanics and ergonomics. My final essay was on prevention of the musculoskeletal disorder, so pain, discomfort, and things like that by ergonomics. So it's pretty much right on the spot for what we'll talk today. So before we start, if Santana could put the first poll while I start sharing my screen, I'd like to know who was there last time or who listened to the presentation online. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. I can see that here. So who was there? Can we have the answers to the poll? Because that will kind of guide the speed. Good, so everybody watched it. So I can go quicker on the review of the last session. That's great. So me, I already introduced myself a little bit. That's there. So today we'll review what are risks for the work-related musculoskeletal dysfunction, the mechanism of injury, the type of injuries. We'll go over that very quickly. And then we'll work on prevention, quick review of last session, and then we'll dive in ergonomics, what it means, what it is, and what to do at work to improve the ergonomics of your workstation. So type of injuries, there are plenty type of injuries. Unless you trip and fall and break something, you're more likely to have either a strain or a repetitive stress injuries. So buildup of small tension that accumulate over time. So it's rarely one clear injury. It's usually more the accumulation of small micro injuries. So the risk factors, the one that apply the most for office work, it's prolonged posture, repetitive movement, or awkward posture. Or it could be in combination of those, doing repetitive movement in an awkward posture during a long time. That will really increase the risk of developing pain and discomfort. And that's what we need to think of when we try to do some prevention, because that's what we need to address. The mechanism of injury for work-related injuries at the office, there are a few physiological things, but the main thing is the Cinderella fibers, like I explained last time. If you don't do tasks that demand a lot of muscle activation, then the body doesn't think about changing which fibers are activated. So they will spend the whole day working at very low intensity, and over time that can lead to some issues and discomfort. So we talked about prevention. Or if I go too fast, if there's something that doesn't work well, just let me know. I have the chat open, so I should see it. Or if Santana or Nalini sees hands up, they can let me know as well. But I can take question. We'll also have question at the end as well. So prevention, we talked quickly about what types of prevention. We have the primary prevention, which is making sure that issues doesn't appear, doesn't develop. It's usually with lifestyle or vaccination could be primary prevention as well. But then there's the secondary prevention. So when you start having small symptoms or small risk factors, then trying to manage those. And then the tertiary prevention is when you have a real issue and then you take action to correct the situation. So the goal is mostly to work in primary prevention, but the same kind of things applies for secondary and tertiary as well. So if you want to do prevention of pain at work, you need to do it in your whole life. You need to have a healthy lifestyle with a good diet, rest, sleep, physical activity, of course. You need to do different types of physical activity to challenge your body. So we are talking about cardiovascular exercise, strength training, endurance, balance, things like that. A bit of stretching as well can be a good thing. You need to work on your stress level too. Stress will increase the muscle contraction throughout the body and will also decrease pain tolerance. So you will feel pain faster if you're stressed than if you're not stressed. And I know that your association did a lot of work on mental health. That's very important to work on that level as well. And physical health and mental health do interact and have an impact on each other. So if you want to take care of your mental health, you also want to make sure that the body's doing fine too. So the last point about prevention is ergonomics. We've covered very quickly the basics at the end of the last session, but today we'll dive much deeper into that. So if you want to use the chat, what is ergonomics for you? What does it mean? Because we talk about ergonomics in so many different type of settings. We'll see ergonomic chairs, ergonomic keyboard, ergonomic gloves, ergonomic software. So what is ergonomics? Oh, you can even use the poll. That's nice. I'll let you just a couple of seconds to write a few words, something short, and then we'll see the answers. And then I'll give you my favorite definition. Can we show what people have wrote so far? Okay, we'll get back to the answers in a minute. I'll just keep going with my favorite definition. So my favorite definition of ergonomics is that it's the study of the relation between the human and the environment or the tools. And it's applied to optimize the performance and reduce the risk. So it's studying how the body interacts with the surroundings to help you be better and feel better, reduce the risk. So online, we have the tools to help us stay healthier. That's good. It's just a different phrasing for my favorite definition. So I like that. Looks like nobody gave me any answer. Beside Nalini on the chat. Thank you, Nalini. So the ergonomic of the workstation. You need to, since we study the interaction of the body and the environment, the tools around it, we need to place the body first. So you need to think about your body and place it in a good position, and then you adjust the workstation, and then you choose and place the accessories you need for your work. So when I talk of workstation, it's mostly the bigger pieces, like the piece of furniture itself, and then maybe the monitor can count as the workstation, so it's not something mobile. So another definition in the chat, making adjustment to support healthy movement. That's good. Tool to help us be healthier. Oh, from the survey. Oh, they just didn't show up on my screen. Anyway, so if you want to place your body first, you need to know in what position place your body. Santana, can you put the third poll, please? So to place the body first, you need to know what's the best posture for the body. So what's a perfect posture? So you can use the poll too. And in a second, we'll try to see what you think is a perfect posture. And then I'll give you my idea of it. I'll get to the next slide, so maybe it will give you some inspiration for your answers. So posture will vary whether you're standing up or sitting down. And can I have the answers from the survey? So straight, 90-degree when sitting. That's a very good start. So if you look at the, oops, I went on the wrong side. Okay. If you look at the picture on the right of the screen, there's a red line going over the body. So in theory, the mathematical good posture, there's a line that goes from the middle of your ear, middle of the shoulder, and then on your hip, a bit in front of the middle of the knee, and then just in front of the ankle bone. So that's the mathematical reference posture. It was a tricky question because there's no best posture. There are mathematical models that will explain how to reduce the tensions of the body, but every body is different. If you have, if you're a woman and have bigger breasts, then it will change your weight distribution, so your body will adapt. If you have a beer belly, it will change how the body shifts to compensate, because when we stand up, we need to keep the center of gravity between our feet, otherwise we fall. So if you have the same body as the person on the right of the screen, then that should be your a good reference posture. But again, you need to adjust depending of who you are, what's going on. If you had past injuries, if you have special variation in your body, that may change your posture, and you don't have to be in that reference posture. Just need to keep the posture in mind and aim towards it. If you've worked for 20 years at a computer and have a head that's quite forward, it's not reasonable to think that you'll be able to stand your whole day straight up and not develop issues. Remember Cinderella? So if you try too hard to be straight, then you'll just make her work harder all day, and then the risk of developing pain is better. It doesn't mean that posture is not important, it is, but you need to make sure that you're comfortable, that you're nice and loose, and that you're as straight up as possible. But you don't have to match the picture on the screen. One of the most frequent changes is the head that's a bit forward, and that's fine. You can do exercise if you would really want to improve your posture. You can do some exercise to try to correct the posture. It takes a lot of time. It takes dedication. It can be done, but you should not try to force your posture while you work all day. That's not a very good idea. Make sure that you change posture often, that you have bad posture in different position, leaning to the left, leaning to the right, arching back. Use your chair to support you, but there's no perfect posture. You need to move. Some people will say that the best posture is the next posture, and I think it's pretty accurate. So be nice with yourself. If you don't have a perfect posture, it's fine, because it doesn't really exist. So now I want you to play with that and just close your eyes, move a bit the shoulder, move your head just loose, and see what your relaxed posture is. You can stand up for this, you can stay sitting down, and just see how it is. You should feel like that the shoulders are a bit forward, that your head is slightly forward. It's super frequent. If you're sitting, there should be a very small curve in the lower back. If you're standing up, it should be a bit bigger, a bit more pronounced. It's normal when we sit, we tilt the pelvis, so it flattens the back a bit, but there should still be a small curve. And now I'd like you to try to be as straight as possible. So bring the shoulder back and down, tuck your chin and push your head back. Make sure you keep the sternum straight, not to arch the back. And then imagine spending all day like that. Your posture is likely better like that than it was before, but I'm sure you don't feel right. So now that we know about the posture, so sitting up straight, 90 degrees, actually it's 90 degrees or slightly more open. You could go up to about 100 degrees for every joint of the body, the knees, the hip, the elbows. You need a good chair to support your body in that reference position. You also need a chair that can follow you when you decide to take other posture, because if you keep the same posture all day, you're likely to be stiff and feel sore. But if you move and if you take bad posture for a couple of seconds, like if you spend 20 seconds leaning on your left elbow while you read something, and then you talk to the phone leaning on the right, and then you spend 10, 20 minutes straight up, nice and relaxed, and then you can listen to a webinar reclining and tilting on your chair. The more you move throughout the day, the better it is. Your chair needs to be able to support you in that. So it's wrong to think that when you find the perfect setting for the chair, you should weld that in place so it doesn't move. It needs to move to follow you in all the posture you'll take throughout the day. The goal of the chair is to support the body, to make you feel relaxed, reduce the muscle activation, but you need to be mobile and move during the day. Now, I'd like you to feel your chair, to see what move, to test everything. So you can start by playing with the armrest, just trying to move them from side to side, forward, backward, up and down, how they adjust. Some of them don't move at all. Some of them move up and down only, but make sure that you know what your chair can do. Once you've played with the armrest, you can go and try to lift the backrest of your chair and then see if there's a lumbar support inside that you can move. You can stand up and look behind your chair if there are levers or handles or stuff you can move to move the lumbar support. And once you've looked at the armrest and the backrest, I'd like you to go on all four and look at under your chair. There should be a few handles there. If there's nothing, you may want to consider getting a new chair. Most of the times they are 3, maybe 4 handles. The front one is usually for the height of the chair. The middle one is to tilt the chair back or forward. And the back one is usually to allow the backrest to incline. Sometimes the handle will move sideways as well. One handle can serve for various functions. So make sure that you look. There might be little icons on the handle, so you know what it's for. Sometimes it's just not written on it, so you really have to test. So look under your chair and sit back on your chair and test. Make sure you know how to lift it, to tilt it. Sometimes the seat itself can move forward or backward. It's usually a long handle, like in those older cars, where you can grab the front of your chair underneath, lift, and then you can slide your bum backward or forward to move the seat. And there's often a big, I've seen you, I'll be back in 1 second. There's often a big knob under the chair. That's for a spring, for the resistance of the tilt. Nalini, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Shal, like when you did our ergonomics evaluation at the office, we discovered this whole new world with each of our chairs. So spending time to learn about the chair and helping you with the posture is really important. So I just wanted to say how it is very helpful to get to know your chair.
And it feels silly to be on all four and to look under your chair and to figure out what handles the what. But it does really help to feel better. And if you understand how it moves, then it will get much more easy to use your chair to support you in all the different posture you'll take throughout the day. So that I was talking about the knob. Sometimes someone just realized the armrests were at different height. Yeah, that's usually not a super good thing. You need most of the time symmetry, but who knows? Maybe your arm is higher than the other, but quite unlikely. So when you tilt your chair, you can usually lock that handle up, and then you can be free tilting, moving freely. There might be a little piece that you can move to allow it to tilt forward, and then you move it back, and then it will lock and keep you from going too far forward. So really spend time playing with your chair. In theory, you want to be able to have the seat pretty flat. A couple of degrees forward could be fine. The seat should be about 90 degrees. It should be vertical. More or less a couple of degrees. There's no real strict rule in ergonomics. It's always a range. So if you feel like you want to go off that a bit because it's better for you, that's likely fine. Just keep in mind the big ideas and test different things, and mostly make sure you move. So once the seat is flat, and the backrest is about 90 degrees, you want your elbows to be right under the shoulder and more or less 90 degrees, actually 90 degrees or a bit more open. So your hands can be a bit lower, that's fine. And you want the elbows to be close to you. So you want to bring, most of the time, the armrest as close as possible to the seat. When you sit, you should have 3 to 4 fingers between your knee and the chair. You don't want any pressure there, but you want a big portion of your thigh supported by the chair. Otherwise, it can create a pressure point. The weight distribution is not good, and then it doesn't feel as right. So I think you'll have to play with that for the next few days to get really comfortable with your chair. Usually, the more posture, the better. And there are quite a few different alternative chairs as well that exist. The more frequent is likely the exercise ball that people get as an office chair. I don't like it at all. It's hard to keep a prolonged, relaxed posture on the ball, and you don't have any backrest. And the goal of the backrest is to give your back a rest. And it's unstable. So yes, people will say, well, you move more, so it's better for you, more movement. Yes, but when you start working, you don't move as much. It just creates more muscle contraction to keep you sitting up. And the weight distribution, since it's very soft, it's not optimal. It will create more discomfort, more blood flow issues, things like that. So it can be fine. If you have enough room in your office, you can get one if you like it and spend 20 minutes on it in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon. It's a good change from your usual good office chair, but it's not really a good option. The one below is, I'll just use the pen here, is a kneeling chair. So you can have your foot, your leg, your knee on the chair. You sit here, and then you have your arm, and then you have your head here. I think I just clicked the wrong way on it, and it went back. So you're sitting on the chair. So if you don't have any knee issue, it can be a fine chair like the ball to use 20 minutes every now and then to change from your office chair. But again, there's no backrest, there's no armrest, and it's harder to adjust it, to move around and to change posture. You can start filling up the pole that just appeared. While I'll talk about the last chair. The last chair is kind of a base for the ball. There's a backrest that's way too far, so there's no way you can use that as a backrest. It stabilizes the ball, so when you want to move, it's harder to move. And it's it brings pretty much none of the benefits of the ball with all of the downside, so it's really not that much of a good idea. If you want a ball at work and need a place to store it, that's fine, but it shouldn't be used as a chair. So what is the best chair? That's a very good question. I gave already a few answers to that. Oh wow, it's all even, and that's great because that was another tricky question. The best chair is a chair that feels comfortable, that offers support, and that gives as many possible adjustments so it can follow you throughout the day in your different postures. So, well, all of you get it right. That's nice. But sometimes, so no universal best chair. My best chair will not be Nalini's best chair. If you are working at home, you can go with a chair with a few less adjustments, like the length of your leg will likely not change. So if you get a chair at home or for your personal office where the seat doesn't move back and forth to adjust the length of the thigh, that's fine. If you're an employer, then you want to get a chair with as many adjustments as possible because there will be staff turnover and the chair will be used by a different person. And if you're an employer, if you're a good one, you may want to get different models of chair because my best chair is not your best chair, and your employee will be able to play with that and steal everybody's chair and play and test and get the one they really like. So as many different chairs in an office usually sound good. If it's just for a meeting room, you can get similar chair. If you spend just a couple of hours here and there, it looks better, that's fine. But for the real office chair that you spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day, you need something that adjusts. You can use the chat, but why would some people say that this is the best chair? I know everybody disagrees, but the super square wooden bench, some people consider it's the best chair because it's so uncomfortable that you keep moving and you'll do everything you can to get out of it. So maybe not recommended for real office work because you need to spend time in your chair, but the idea is really good. You need to move and you need to get out of it as much as you can. Any question about the chair? Good. So a nice chair adjusts and moves with you throughout the day. So the workstation, the desk, there are quite a few things to consider. Nowadays, you have more and more standing desks that will adjust in height. That's great. It's not mandatory to have a good setup. You can have a normal sitting desk and have it well adapted for you. The standing position is a nice change for the leg and the lower back. In theory, whether you work sitting at a computer or standing at a computer, the upper body shouldn't move. The rules are still the same. So it's mostly lower back and legs that benefit from it. You do move a bit more from side to side and from leg to leg. So it changes a bit the upper body, but really not that much. So now that you've placed your body in a perfect posture that doesn't exist, on a perfect chair that doesn't exist, you need to make sure that all the rest of the workstation fits with you. Most of the time, if you have a standard desk, it doesn't really adjust in height. So you may have to compromise and to raise your chair higher than you want so your hands can reach the place where the keyboard is. But if you do that and your feet don't touch the ground, you need a footrest. Otherwise, the footrest can be nice. It gives other option for the feet, but it's not mandatory if your feet are flat on the ground. The desk typically comes with a keyboard tray that allows the keyboard to be lower than the desk surface. Most of the standing desks don't come with a keyboard tray for, well, mostly technical reasons. There's a crossbar under the desk to allow the wires to go from side to side to lift the desk. but it's the keyboard tray is important if your desk is used for both purpose of computer work and a bit of paperwork. So more and more we're going towards a world where it's only the computer. You work with your monitor, your keyboard and mouse, and that's it. And if it's the case, if you don't use any paper, then you can have a desk adjustable in height that go low, like under your elbow, and you place your keyboard and mouse there. That's fine. If you do use paperwork, then you need the desk surface to be higher. So the keyboard tray should be 1 or 2 centimeters below the tip of your elbow. So when you add the keyboard on top of it, it's right there under your fingers. When you work with paperwork, you have to compromise between your neck looking down, so your neck looking down, and your elbows going up. So for your head, doing paperwork at that height would be great because you would just see there and you would be super straight. But for your arms, it would be terrible. So usually about 8, 10, 12 centimeters above the tip of the shoulder for paperwork is decent. There are few things with that, like if it was inclined, it would be even better, like the old architect table. You can put and rest your arms on it, and when it gets further, you don't have to bend as much. But a typical desk, let's say 10 centimeters above the elbow, is fine for paperwork. So on the picture here, we have an angle at the elbow 90 degrees with the keyboard there. So we have to assume that that person doesn't do any paperwork. The desk could be a bit lower. You see the yellow line I draw? If the desk is lower, you want to adjust the keyboard tray with that angle if you can. Many keyboard tray can be inclined backward or forward. So you want to keep your arms straight if possible. So a few degrees down will prevent the wrist extension of having the keyboard down. The monitor, your natural line of sight goes down. So what height should the monitor be? Well, you want the middle of the monitor to be in your natural line of sight. In theory, someone with a pretty good posture will have the line of sight going down a few degrees, 20, 23 degrees. But if your head gets more forward, then the angle will go down a bit. So you need to figure out what feels comfortable for you. But the general rule is that your eyes should be either aligned with the top of the screen or in the first 20% of the screen. So maybe the first 2 inches of the screen. So the top of the screen can be up to 2 inches higher than your eyes. You need to find something that's comfortable for you. So again, it's always a range. So if your head is really forward and you feel like your natural line of sight is going down quite a bit, then lower for you may be better. And if you work on improving your posture and next year you realize that it's too low, well, fine, move it up, and you should feel a nice difference. So the workstation can lead to some compromise. So if you like it lower, but you don't have the angle adjustment, then you can live with a bit of wrist extension, but it needs to feel comfortable. And if you ever feel soreness, stiffness, things like that, you need to make changes and to try something else. Again, it's general rules. Some people will prefer to do something slightly different, and it's fine as long as you are comfortable with your setting. There are different types of desks. So I've talked about the whole desk that move up and down, but the one on top is pretty common in government offices as well, and I like it. It's a bit more wobbly than the one on the right, but the keyboard tray can go below the desk. So it allows people to not have a footrest. And when you move it up, then you can stand up and it's fine. The one on the right, when you bring it down, the keyboard tray is sitting on top of the table. So either you need a desk that is very, very low, or you need a chair that goes very high to bring your elbows at that level. And seeing the first picture, I realized I talk about the monitor height, but many people do have 2 monitors. So on that picture here, it's fine. There's no space in between, so it reduces the neck rotation. And there's a small angle between the 2 monitors. It's not flat against the wall. There's a slight angle, so when you turn your head, you're still facing the monitor. If you're not using the monitor, then it would be a very good idea to keep only one. So you'll rotate your head less, you'll stay in front of the monitor. Or if you need both monitor, but sometimes you spend a lot of time looking at only one, make sure that you twist your chair, you turn your chair, you turn your keyboard and mouse to really face that monitor if you spend a lot of time using only one. And when you're not home, you can get a laptop stand, when you're not at work, a laptop stand and a keyboard and a mouse. You don't want to use that tray here. You want to put your things on the table in front, the keyboard and the mouse. So your eyes can be in that zone here, and your arms can be quite comfortable. It falls flat, it can go in a suitcase. When you travel, you can have a decent setup in your hotel room, much better than just working on the laptop. If you're just going for an hour meeting, just working from the laptop should be fine. You shouldn't develop big issues from 1 hour once in a while. But in general, if you spend quite a bit of time at home or on the road, you want to get a laptop stand. There's quite a few models. And well, it's nice because you could also work standing up. You can adjust it, unfold the legs more, and then you may want to use the mouse tray if you're working standing up. But they are usually pretty wobbly, so it's not that nice to use. You may have seen other type of workstation too. Active or dynamic workstation with the bicycle or the treadmill. It's great because you move more, there's more movement, but there's a significant issue with those. It's that our mental resources are limited. And there's what we call the dual task conflict. So if we do two things, well, some will say it's only applied to men, but if we do two things at the same time, it takes some cognitive process from each other and makes things harder. So the body will prefer not to fall down. So even just standing up come into conflict with more intense, demanding task, mostly mathematical, 3D model. If you do 3D modeling in your head, then it's much better to sit. They are very good things for doing lighter tasks. So if you need to clean up your inbox, you can take your laptop from your station, go there. Some offices will have one for the whole office. You go there, you do a bit of biking when you sort your emails, and then when you're done, you go back to your real workstation, and then you can do real work, and you spend a bit of energy. It feels good. So it's nice to have in bigger offices. It may not be necessary to have at home, or if you're having just a small office, because most people cannot work on a long period on that. Movement, walking does help with imagination. So sometimes you'll see kids well, my oldest was like that. He was walking around the living room, talking, inventing stories, and then he would sit down and not say a word. He couldn't invent stories if he wasn't walking, but many people are like that. So if you're writing a novel, then walking may be fine. You'll type a bit slower, but it will not conflict too much with your work. But if you're doing an Excel spreadsheet, then you may want to sit. And if you walk, there's also movement from side to side, and some people will get a bit seasick from watching the monitor and trying to do precise tasks. Anyway, so good ideas. If you're lucky enough to have one in your office, use it. And you may not want to get one for home unless you really want to. This is becoming a bit more popular, well, mostly down south. I didn't see it up here yet. In theory, why not? It's sit, stand, recline. So one extra position. Usually the chair adjusts so you can take many different positions. They cost quite a bit of money. I'm not sure it's necessary. I'm not sure I'll recommend your boss to get one, but it exists. In theory, it should be a good idea. I didn't see many studies on that though, so not sure how good it really applies to the real life. But it looks good. Now everybody wants one. So now that we've talked about the workstation, that should just follow your posture. So you place yourself in the chair, you place your workstation around you so you are comfortable. or you cheat and raise a chair to reach the workstation. Then you have all the accessories. You need to know where to place them and what type of accessories to work. So the usual work, there's the picture on the screen, there's the zone of usual work. That's where the keyboard and the mouse should be. You can test. So if you put your hands together on your lap, it should feel nice and relaxed. If you open your hands in front of you, it should, for most of you, still feel good and relaxed. If you open more sideways, most of you will start feeling not pain, but pulling, discomfort in the shoulder. And that's why there are lines, vertical lines at the end of usual work. You should not work wider than the shoulders. Your hands forward is fine. Together is even better, more neutral in the middle of the body. And you want to work close from you. So the keyboard should be almost touching your belly, and it should be right there close to you. If you have a landline that rings once in a while, it could be in the occasional work. If you answer the phone all day, well, you should have a headset, but if you don't, it should be in the usual work zone. The occasional work area, you can put your notebook there, you can put paper, you can, the stuff you don't use all day long can be there. And the non-working area, you can still put stuff there. Like your computer can be in that zone, and you can stretch over once a day to turn on your computer. That's fine. You won't develop tendonitis from pushing the button once a day. Same thing, you have a document scanner that you use 2 times a year. It can be there, and when you need it, you stretch, you pull it forward, and you use it. So non-working means that it's not something you use daily, and your monitor should be somewhere at the junction of the occasional work and non-working area. That's a good place to see. If it's a really large monitor, further back is usually a bit better. But that's the usual positioning. So the keyboard really close to you, either on the desk surface if you have no paperwork at all involved, or on the keyboard tray, which can give a little angle. So I always like keyboard trays. And on those tray, you'll put a keyboard. So there are different types. The typical keyboard is straight. So when we work, there's a little bit of deviation of the wrist to type. The curved keyboard reduces that deviation and keep the wrist in a better, more neutral position, which is better. The risk of using a typical keyboard is fairly small. So most people will be fine their whole life, but if you want to improve and prevent, the curved keyboard is a bit better. The one on top also have a detached numeric keypad, that little piece there. So if you're not doing a lot of numbers, that allows you to bring the mouse much closer to the keyboard and much closer to the center. If you are an accountant, well, you're working law, so you're not, but accountants will use that quite a bit. So having it in the center may be a better idea, but they can also place it wherever they feel comfortable when it's detached. So if no numbers, then that's a very good choice, because you can put the mouse closer and reduce the tension in the wrist. On that page, it's mostly keyboard that you don't want. The two below, I won't even talk about it. They exist, you don't want them. The one on top seems like a good idea because you can adjust it in all angles. You can even fold it in two and type with your hands facing each other. The issue is that every time you change the setting of the angle of your keyboard, you need to relearn and to adapt to be efficient. And even if you get good at using your keyboard in 20 different positions, you'll need to hold your hand in a quite awkward position for long periods of time to use that keyboard without support. So unless you want to develop custom-made support for your forearm for every position, the top keyboard may not be a good idea after all. And if you put it the same angle as the curved keyboard we saw before, you still have the edges that are much less comfortable than the nice slope built in with the typical curved keyboard. Let's take a look at the mouse, which is another very important tool. I didn't put a picture of a typical mouse because everybody use one and know how it is. There are different sizes of mouse. So it should be comfortable in your hand, should fit. It shouldn't be too big, too small, but depending of the way you hold your mouse, not every hand size will want the same mouse. So if you go more with the tip of the fingers, then a smaller mouse is usually fine. If you really put the whole hand on your mouse, then you want a bigger mouse. So you need to test a few to be comfortable. With the typical mouse, we do a lot of movement left and right. With the vertical mouse on the right, the hand is up, so we do a lot of flexion extension. The risk is pretty much the same. The risk of developing issues is very similar, but it's not the same issues. So some people will decide to change type of mouse or to change side every now and then to reduce the risk. There's no real study on that, but in theory, it could be a good idea. Some people will just decide to change a type of mouse when they start feeling symptoms. So when they feel a bit of pain at the wrist, then they go from the typical mouse to the vertical mouse, and then it's not the same tendon that are involved, so it gives a break and helps to feel better. The mouse on the left is kind of an oblique mouse. It combines both extension and flexion and lateral bending. So maybe not a better, it's kind of an in-between. So you don't get as much rest using that one than using the purely vertical or the typical mouse. The two balls are nice. The one on the bottom use the thumb, the one on the right use one of those two fingers, then the index or the middle finger to roll the ball. Again, the risk is not less with those, it's just different type of issues that arise from prolonged use of those mouse. The joystick in the middle is not really a joystick, it's really just the positioning of the hand around the stick, and then there's still the laser pointer underneath. So you still have to move the mouse around, but instead of putting your hand flat like the vertical mouse, you wrap it around the joystick and then you can click. So it's a nice change from the typical mouse. Those two are not that great. Well, on a laptop, it's nice. The trackpad is good because it's centered. If you add the trackpad to your keyboard, and it usually pushes your keyboard further away, so you need to stretch. So when you type, it's harder on your body. And the little pen, it's kind of heavy, so you need to grab on it to hold it more than you do with a mouse. So if you're doing graphic designs, well, not you, but if somebody is doing graphic design, it's even better with a graphic tablet that will come with just a little stylus and plastic, super light, and they can be more precise. So it's can be fine for short-term use. So if you like to sign documents with the mouse, then it's easier with that. But for real office work, it's not a really good idea. You're better to stick with one of the mouse on the previous page, so the vertical mouse, the trackballs, things like that. There are also other accessories you may need, although less and less. We already talked about the footrest. So if your feet don't touch the ground, you need one. Then whether you take it inclined or flat, it's a matter of personal preference. The headset can be more high-tech than the one I've put there, but if you're using your phone quite a bit, it's much better because it keeps a better posture and it frees your hands to do something, to type or work at the same time. On top of the page, it's, well, document holders, either for bigger books or just one page. If you are using two monitors, you want to put that kind of in front of the monitors and below, so more inclined lower, because you don't want to turn completely to the side of two monitors. If you have only one, you can use the one that you put just on the side of the monitor and higher to reduce neck flexion. But anyway, people are using less and less paper document now, but if you do, it's still a very good investment to get one of those little folding things, so it's more comfortable. If you need to write, they are not stable. It's hard. Like, you can check on your notebook what the task you've done, but you cannot really write on it. So it will need to be flat on the desk to write. But that completes a pretty good workstation. The only thing left is the lighting around it. When you work at a computer, it should be a normal ambient lighting. You don't need a strong light, neither at the front or behind the computer. The back of the monitor shouldn't be too dark because that increases the contrast between the monitor that projects light and the back that is super dark. So if it's the case, you may want to put a small lamp behind the monitor so there's a bit of light around the monitor, but in most offices, general lighting is fine. If they are windows, you may get some glare in your screen, and then it will force you to change your posture and take weird posture to avoid and to see what's on your screen. The best position for your screen is 90 degrees from the window. You don't want the window behind your monitor, and you don't want the window behind your back. That's why most of the time ceiling light are fine, because they are more or less 90 degrees from the monitor. So that covers the ergonomics of the workstation. We could have spent quite a bit more time on that. But globally, you place your body comfortable, nice and relaxed, as straight as it feels natural for you. You support your body with your chair, and then you make sure that the workstation fits with what you need, with the monitor at eye level or a bit higher, the keyboard right there under your hands when your elbow is 90 to 100 degrees. And that's a very good start for a workstation. If you can have a standing desk, even better. If you don't, you should be fine, especially if you do all the other steps of prevention that we've talked about. Being active, taking breaks, taking active breaks at work, good diet, good rest, things like that. Do you have any questions about the ergonomics of the workstation?
While we wait for perhaps a
No
question,
question.
I was just gonna say, I
Go ahead.
travel a lot for work. And I've invested like in these, some of them fold. So when I'm traveling with my little travel laptop, because I've developed over time too much time on the couch working tendonitis, but it's much better. And just having these little tools when I'm travel, folding them, it's definitely played an important part in like making sure I'm staying healthy. Um, when I'm working, when I'm traveling for work. So it doesn't have to cost a lot, but all these little things can help over time, because I think we spend a lot of time sitting down working documents and whatnot. So if there's no questions, obviously you know how to reach me. If there's any arising questions from today's chat, you can always send it to the cle@lawsociety.nu.ca account, or you can just email me if you have my me. Oh, Nuka has a question.
Yeah. Yeah. How often should we be taking active breaks during the day? Well,
Hmm.
as often as you can. Aim for 20, 30 minutes. And in the real life, you'll skip a few, but that's fine. But every time you can achieve the 20, 30 minutes of working and then a few minutes active breaks, that's great. And of course, you'll get caught into your work, and sometimes you'll spend hours not taking break. It happens. You can put app on your phone if you want reminders, things like that. But if most of the time you take breaks every half hour, that usually helps a lot to reduce the tensions.
That's all right.
Yeah,
And
we
we've
tend to
challenged
spend
us. Sorry, Shal, please go ahead. Sorry, I'm cutting you off.
we do spend a lot of time in the chair, and sometimes just taking an elastic band and stretching and pulling can make a nice difference. There are a few toys, few tools you can get to make you move a bit more, but standing up is also important. You can do, well, you can go walk, you can go climb stairs, you can do a few squats. There's, you can just Google office workout, and they'll give you plenty of ideas. In the images section, you'll have sheets full of exercise. And again, if you do exercise with a chair, it needs to be a chair that doesn't roll.
Thank you
Thank you
very
for
much
the
for your presentation. Sorry, go ahead, Nalini.
Welcome.
No, that's okay. I option for like our better wellness at work. Please go ahead, Nuka, please.
I was just going to say thanks again for the presentation. I missed the
Oh, I think we lost you a little bit, Nuka, but if I understood well, you missed the first presentation, but the recording is available. And I was just going to say, in our office here at the Law Society, we've challenged ourselves with implementing, you know, one small change, that just to factor in how we can do better at work and be mindful of our wellness. And some of us have little buzzers to remind us to like take a little bit of a break, a minute break or whatnot. So, and again, it doesn't cost much to try and kind of reprogram our brain of what we can do to stay healthy at work. So on that note, merci beaucoup, Charles. Always very interesting to welcome you on these these topics, Nakome. And I wish everyone a wonderful weekend. And again, if your colleagues weren't able to join today's conversation, encourage them to have a look at the recording to pick their brain about what they can implement. It doesn't have to be very complicated. Small changes can definitely go a long way. Merci encore. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.